Hello, beautiful beings. Grab your water, stay hydrated. About to take some deep breaths. Welcome, welcome. Let me know one thing that you're grateful for in the comments section, whether you're watching this live or watching the replay. What is one thing you're grateful for? Or more, if you feel called. So we're going to take some deep breaths in through the nose. You want to breathe into your stomach area and like expand it like a Buddha belly. And then out through your nose. If you really want like an activation, you can breathe in and hold and really like feel into the breath in your belly and hold for as long as you can. And then exhale it all out, let it go. Not only does that activate your energy field and system, but it releases and purges anything that you don't want to hold on to anymore. So it's a good cleansing and clearing exercise you can do for yourself and for your energetic field. Today I'm going to be talking about, I'll post this comment in the comment, whatever this is called. I'm going to be talking about Western versus sidereal astrology and which one is real. I've been doing so much research on this. I have gone full investigator mode when it comes to all things astrology and astronomy and astronomical astrology, which I just learned is a thing, and I'm really excited to like branch off into and really niche myself down in that way, because that is what the real astrology is astronomical astrology. It's actually based off the stars. And I get this question a lot from friends and just people I talk to about astrology. They're like, which one do you follow? Which one is real? And I have just recently felt called after the whole Lionsgate thing. If you didn't see my post about that, go check it out, but it's kind of over now, so really who cares anyways. Fads, they come and they go. I really dived into like researching what is real about these things and what is actually true, because there's a lot of misinformation. Like I have heard this from multiple people that we live in the age of misinformation. A lot of people call the age and the era that we're living in now the age of information, but it's actually the age of misinformation, because there's so much information out there and accessible to us. We can find anything, any type of information to confirm our bias, to confirm what we think to be true, to confirm that. We can find any sort of information to confirm what we believe and what we think to be true. So it's really about coming at it from all sides and looking at all sources and what everything has to say about the topic, not just like having bias and choosing to see with our blinders on, like confirming what we want to be true, and really looking at it from all sides and then making a decision, okay, what feels good for me, what feels right for me, what feels true for me. Because again, we can find information to confirm anything, any belief we have, and our logic brain can make sense and logically come to a conclusion about any sort of topic or any sort of information that we see or perceive to be true. We can literally logic our way through anything. So it's really about tapping into, and I talk about this a lot, is tapping into the subtle energetics of things and really getting underneath the surface and really going behind the veil and really looking at and feeling into things as they feel true for you, because it's going to be different for everyone. And that's like why we're here on this planet, is to embrace our own unique individuality. Getting off on a tangent there, so I'm going to reel this back into the topic at hand, which is Western astrology versus sidereal astrology. Western astrology is also sometimes called tropical astrology, and sidereal astrology is also sometimes called Vedic astrology. But that being said, when it comes to sidereal astrology, there are so many, I think it's called Ayanamsa? I don't remember what it's called. Sanskrit word for movement. There's so many different types of sidereal systems out there. It can be really confusing, and I myself have been like I said, diving deep into this, because my astrology program that I use, which is Astro Gold, this is what it looks like if anyone's interested. You can change the colors, that's what I did, but there's like 7 different sidereal systems within this one system, because basically there were astrologers back in 1500s, 1400s, 1600s, like 500-600 years ago, that were studied astrology, and that really kind of created these systems based off their own calculations of the stars, based off like a fixed point, based off like the eclectic. Like there's so many different, and this goes so deep, which I'm not gonna get into. I'm just gonna keep this at like a basic level so that you can easily understand this information and digest it for yourself, and hopefully make a conclusion on like what feels right for you. Again, what feels right for you, and what do you resonate with? And I will preface this by saying that no matter what you're following, Western astrology, tropical, Western/tropical, same thing, astrology, or sidereal or Vedic astrology. Well, I'm going to use sidereal because Vedic is just a branch of sidereal astrology. Either Western or sidereal, whichever you're choosing to go with, the planets and the aspects they're making in your chart and the houses they're in your chart don't change. The only thing that changes by changing the system that you're using, again, Western versus sidereal, is the signs themselves. So that's the only thing that changes when you pull up your chart. If you pull up your chart using the Western system, or you pull up your chart using the sidereal system, the only things that change are the signs itself, which the signs in our chart represent energy. So it's like, your north node is in a certain sign, that is the energy your north node is meant to express itself in this lifetime. So that's kind of how signs show up and express themselves. I like to refer to it as planets are like the teachers, and whatever house that they're in, it's like the classroom that we're in, and we're taking that lesson. And the sign is kind of like the curriculum in the way that that teacher and that classroom and energy of the teacher and classroom expresses itself. Does that make sense? So that's kind of how, a general understanding of this stuff can be seen, is like, oh, it doesn't actually change. Like if my Saturn is squaring Uranus in my birth chart, that doesn't change based on the system that you're using. It remains the same, and it'll be in your 4th house, whatever house it's in, it won't change. So I can give you guys an example. Like, let me pull up my chart here using my program. So this is my chart using the Fagan-Allen sidereal system, and you can see, I wish I had like an easier way to show you guys this, but so you can see here that my Chiron is in the 12th house, right? Let's just use that as an example. Chiron's in the 12th house. I'm going to change the system to go back to Western astrology, tropical astrology. And that was in Leo. So my Chiron in sidereal astrology is in Leo in the 12th house. And you can see here that my Chiron is now in, this is Chiron, in Virgo. So the only thing that changes, it's still in the 12th house. The only thing that changes is the sign, the energy, that the way that placement expresses itself. And it's only going to be about a 25-degree difference. So that is what, I'm going to break this down. So I have like a whole page of notes here because there's a lot to talk about. But again, I'm not going to go super deep. I'm just going to keep it like surface level basic stuff so you can understand. So Western astrology is based off the equinox. It's not based off the actual constellations and where the planets are in the constellations in the sky right now, which is what sidereal astrology is based off of, is where right now the planets are in the actual constellations in the sky. So tropical Western astrology is based off the equinox, and that was changed at around 500 BC when the Babylonians created the Gregorian calendar and based it off the ecliptic constellations. They simplified it and they divided it into 12 different equal parts with 30 equal degrees for each constellation or zodiac sign, which is inaccurate in of itself because each zodiac sign, each constellation has different degree of span that it breaks up. So I just recently posted a blog post about the degrees themselves and like the different meanings of each degree and how each sign takes up about 30 degrees of span in the sky, and that's how you have a whole chart. There's 12 signs at 30 degrees each, which 12 times 30 is 360, so 360 degrees is a circle. That's the mandala of your chart. But so the Babylonians back in 500 BC, when they created the calendar system, they divided these things into 12 equal parts in 30 equal degrees. And they did that based off the seasons, because that was beneficial for agriculture, and it was beneficial just to have like a simple understanding of this stuff. And that's kind of the system that we've ended up with today, is based off the seasons. It's based off the equinox, and that's how Western and tropical astrology is based off of, is the seasons and the actual like Gregorian calendar, 12 months, kind of like keeping it equal and linear. And what I was saying before I got off on a tangent, that every constellation, each zodiac sign has a different span of degrees. So Virgo takes up about 45 degrees of width, and Cancer takes up about 20 degrees. So in true sidereal astrology, it goes off the actual constellations and what the actual constellations take up in the sky, and what planets are in those constellations at different times of the year. So it's literally, it's not linear, and it can't be diagnosed as linear or like taught as linear, because that's not how our world works. That's not how our universe works. The planets move every year, and the constellations with them. So it's like the system, Western tropical astrology, has no actual reflection of the sky, which is the main differences in Western tropical astrology and sidereal astrology. Sidereal astrology is actually based off the sky and what is going on in the sky, which is what's actually affecting us. And I have like a little theory that Western astrology is based off of like kind of the matrix, and programming us to kind of like not see what is actually real, and kind of like distract us. It's like they're like ringing a bell over here, like, hey, look at this, like don't actually like, don't actually become aware and awaken to like what's really going on, which is actually the sky, actually the planet, what planets are in the constellations at what time, like based off the actual sky right now. Go off this system that we've created to distract you from what's real. So that is like what's real. Sidereal astrology is what's real, and it's also referred to as true sidereal astrology. And in sidereal astrology, true sidereal astrology is actually a 13th sign. And for so long, like people have been messaging me, like ever since I started Understand Astrology, which is my astrology business and website, about a year and a half ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. People have been asking me like, oh, did you know there's a 13th sign? Like, what about the 13th sign? Do you ever talk about the 13th sign? And I was just like, no, that's bullshit. Like, there's only 12 signs. What are you talking about, 13th sign? And then I actually looked into it and it's like, oh, like, way to prove yourself wrong, Kelsey. Like, but this is how like my life goes. People tell me things, and this is also in human design. I'm a 1-3 profile, and that's based off tropical astrology, which I'm not going to get to in this video because it is way too complex. But I have to like learn through making mistakes, and like learning through my personal experience how things are, and how things like, how I need to pivot. And like, again, I learned my whole life through trial and error and being wrong, so that I can like figure out what is actually like quote unquote right, and what is actually like true for me. And again, like if this resonates with you, if sidereal astrology resonates with you, then follow sidereal astrology. If your Western astrology resonates with you, then follow your Western astrology. But again, the only thing that really changes in the two things is the signs that the planets and the houses you have are in. So it's really not that big of a difference to like go, and it's what's interesting also is that we all have all 12 signs in our birth chart. So like we could be pulling from any sign at each moment, because we all have that within our chart. So it's really just about like, again, what feels true for you, what resonates with you. And really, if you want to be following a system that's like way outdated, aka tropical astrology is like really outdated. And I feel like we're, as a society, and as we move into the age of Aquarius, moving back into what's real, what's true. And what's true is sidereal astrology, because it's based off the actual stars, the actual planets, and what constellations they're in the right now. And again, I'm not trying to convince anyone or anything like that, tell you what to follow, do what feels good for you. I'm just sharing the information, and you can do with it as you will. When I first found out about the main differences between Western and sidereal astrology, and that there was about a 25-degree difference, Western astrology is about 25 degrees ahead of sidereal astrology because of how it was created, and the planetary movements over time. 1 degree of difference has added up to be a 25-degree difference over thousands of years, which is kind of how it works. That's a quote in the Tao Te Ching as well, like 1,000 miles begins with 1 step. So small incremental changes add up to big incremental changes over time. And this is kind of what has happened with astrology. Okay, what was I talking about? I got off on a tangent there. Yeah, I don't remember what I was talking about, but it'll come back to me if it's important. Oh, what I was saying is that when I first found out about this difference, because someone asked me, when I first joined Clubhouse back in January, I was like in astrology rooms a lot, and people were asking about this, and I got a lot of questions, like, which do you follow, Vedic or tropical? And I was like, oh, I just follow tropical, because like it's the thing that everybody's been doing, and like it's easy, and like we're in the Western world, so like follow the tropical astrology because we're in the Western world and we're in the West. Like, so funny how our opinions can change. It rocked my world when I pulled up my sidereal chart, because I was like, I don't know if like I want to resonate with this, because it shook my, and there's a famous, I think it's Carl Jung or someone else, there's a famous like psychologist that talks about how astrology and systems like this are just like a confirmation for people to believe what they want to believe about themselves. So when I pulled up my sidereal chart and I was like, I'm actually an Aries and like have a lot of Leo and like Aquarius, I was like, what? Like I was shook. My whole world was like rocked, and I was like, I had to like table it. I had to put it under the rug for a little bit and be like, I don't know if I can like look into this, if I can accept this as my truth, like, because it was just so different from what I've known for the past 6-7 years of my Western astrology, my tropical astrology. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, because opinions can change over time, and if something is coming to you, like this has been coming to me for the past year or so, like being repeated and constantly like pushed into my field of like, Kelsey, look at this, like 13th sign, sidereal astrology, Vedic astrology, like people are asking you about it, like look at this. Like I am a generator, I'm a manifesting generator, which is like a hybrid of a generator. So I'm meant to respond, like I'm meant to like take what is given to me and respond to it. And like this has been coming to my field for, like I said, about a year, and it just like took me a lot of time to integrate that and to realize like, oh, and through like the constant and the, you know, the evolution of learning I had to go through and trial and error of being like, oh, like this is actually like fake, like Western astrology isn't based off anything real, like it's just, it was created like however many thousands years ago, about 1500 years ago, and we've just been following it blindly. Like it's like, what? So anyways, what I'm saying is that I had to go through my own evolution and process of learning for myself what is true for myself and what I want to follow and what I want to focus on and what I want to be my truth. And I'm asking the same, inviting you to ask the same of yourself and really like question what you deem to be true and real about your astrology, and like how, you know, how you might be using this as like a confirmation bias for yourself to like resonate with certain signs because they have certain traits, instead of like, what I'm here to do is to teach astrology at an evolutionary level. Like it is meant to be. It's not like, and this is something I got a lot of questions about too when I was starting my business, is like, well, don't people just use astrology to like, you know, make excuses for their behavior or whatever? And it's like, that, yeah, that's valid, and people can do that. Like anything, any kind of labels, you can give that kind of credit or weight to labels in that way. But the way I use, and I feel like this system, these systems, astrology and human design and gene keys and all of it, is meant to be used as an evolutionary growth tool and a self-development tool to align with like something better than what you've just been born into this world to be or conditioned to be. And that's really how I see astrology as a whole, is like really using it as a growth tool and a path to evolution, to the evolution of who you are, to become something greater, to awaken to your potential and realize that you have the potential and the ability to change and to grow and to evolve. And that's what we're here to do as humans. You know, I like to say like, we're big plants. Like if you look at a plant, like how do you know a plant is dead? It's when it stops growing. We're no different. When we stop growing, we're going backwards. You're either going forwards or you're going backwards. And not growing is death. Growing, evolving is life. That is like the definition of life, is constantly going through change and evolution. And so that is how I use these tools. That's how I use astrology. That's how I use human design. That's how I use crystals and tarot, is to change and to evolve and to help us evolve as a collective, as a humanity, and to greater than we have been. Because just because we've done something for a long time, like doesn't give us an excuse or reason to keep doing it that way. It's complete bullshit. And It's just a way to stay comfortable and to stay the same. And it's not what I'm here to teach or to help anyone with. Is not to stay the same. It's boring as fuck to stay the same, honestly. Like, who doesn't want to change? Who doesn't want to grow? Who doesn't want to be better than you currently are and experience better than what you have experienced your whole life? So that's me and my little soapbox of Western tropical versus sidereal astrology. It goes so much deeper than that, but that's the basics. One of my favorite websites for looking up your true sidereal astrology based on and including the 13th sign and based off the astronomical astrology is masteringthezodiac.com. So you can check out their website to look up your true sidereal birth chart based off the actual planets and what constellations they were in at the time of your birth. That website also uses the accurate degrees for each constellation and for each sign. Again, it's astronomical astrology. It's actually based off the astronomy and taking the astrology from the astronomy. And what's funny, another parallel of this and how this has constantly been coming into my life, when I moved to Hawaii and people were like, oh, what do you do? Like, I was meeting people and they're like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a professional astrologer. And they're like, oh, astronomy, cool. And I was like, no, not astronomy, astrology. And now I'm like, oh, they're one and the same. And like, anyways, that's a whole other video for another day, but just more confirmation that is like what's real about astrology is true sidereal. So hopefully this resonates with you. Let me know what you learned and how this is going to affect your view of astrology moving forward. I would love to know, because that's what I'm here to do, is to bring the truth and what's real and not just follow shit blindly because everyone else is doing it. Fuck the bandwagons. So yeah, that was all I had for you today. Much love, and until next time, stay thriving.